True peace, everybody. Happy Holy Day. Just give me a second. I'll be here. This is your host, Dr. Lawiy, the Grand Sheik of Branch Temple number 24 of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We are a global branch temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America. We're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed. We will be going live here in just a sec. All right, y'all, let's get it started. First thing first, I want to give honors to the divine creator, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. I want to give honors to the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I want to give honors to the forerunner of the prophet, Honorable Marcus Garvey. I want to give honors to all of the original staff of the prophet. Excuse me. I want to give honors to all of those that will be here in attendance tonight for a holy day. Happy holy day, peacemakers and Muslims. Welcome. So let's get started tonight. We're going to jump in and get things started with our divine supplication. First thing first. So, y'all know how we do this. I'm sorry for the sister Yah. If you come back, listen to the replays. I seen you come in the room earlier. I just didn't get a chance to unmute. All right. Let me get our divine supplication ready. Like I say, we begin all things first by using the all. So let's get started. All right. Let's go ahead and jump right into this. O Heavenly One, the Most High, who is sustainer of all the worlds, we do accept the duty you have laid on us to clean up the filth made by the West and its non-submitting fools. O my sustainer, we beseech you to keep your hand over us to control the strings of the courses of our lives. Our sustainer, and if we do wrong, please show our divine blessings and forgiveness on us. You are the only one that can raise us true followers of the news bearers, and in thy name we carry on. True peace. So I can't see the room right now because I'm opening, doing the Moorish parliamentary opening for us. So if you can stick around and raise your hand or leave a question in the chat, that'd be very helpful. But we want to make sure that you all enjoy your time here tonight. We just don't want it to be boring and dull. Of course, we know the divine is going to leave us a blessed message for the night. So let's jump right into our affirmations, our daily affirmations that we have here. Our daily affirmations that we call the daily affirmations of loyalty of the children of the Elohim, and what we accept as fact. As it states, we accept as fact the eternal laws of nature as revealed through science, past events, logic, and common sense, revealed as right knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. We accept as fact the highest laws of nature is the cooperation and harmony of all living things. We accept as fact our way of life as a means to the best end. We accept as fact that loyalty is the greatest of all honors and treason is the worst of all crimes. We accept as fact that what is good for the Holy Tabernacle is the highest virtue, and what is bad for the Holy Tabernacle is the ultimate evil. We accept as fact that the Holy Tabernacle is the finest and noblest organization for all humanity, created by circumstances, and the ancient and mystic order of Melchizedek is the noblest of fraternities on and above this planet. We accept as fact that creativity, love, and cooperation are the essence of success. We accept as fact that truth and facts are always and has always been the originator and creator of all success. We accept this fact that all worthwhile cultures and civilizations came about from the ancient Sumerians and Kamite Egyptians, and the Anunnaki or Elohims from the heavens, without which there would be none. We accept this fact that for the Holy Tabernacle to survive, expand, and advance, we need first of all a revolution of values and thoughts, which must start within each person by being truthful with themselves and about themselves. Therefore, we completely and categorically reject all myths, fictions, religions, and lies that have not been proven. That would include your heavens, your hellfires, your hells, your hellfires, and brimstones, your horn and pitchfork devils, your winged angels, and your old man God character sitting on a throne up there somewhere. We deal strictly with facts. If you can't prove it, we don't want to hear it. That doesn't mean we won't listen to you. Just don't expect us to accept your beliefs by virtue of a title such as Reverend, Pastor, Deacon, Imam, Sheik, Rabbi, Minister, Theologian, etc. That is your sensationalism, and we deal with just the facts. We accept this fact that the only true revolution is a war of good against evil, right against wrong, fairness against unfairness, loyalty against disloyalty, sincerity against insincerity, honesty against dishonesty. And this wars fall within each person among the agreeable and disagreeable Elohims that make up your willpower. We accept this fact that that the unity of our community and its success will only happen with cooperation with all involved. We accept this fact the total unification of all humanity on the basis of truth, that is, accepting people and races for who and what they are, respecting their culture, their languages, and their beliefs, and expect the same. We accept this fact that the human race's biological and cultural heritage is now under attack by our own morals, our self-righteousness, our desire to control industry, and these things attack the very existence of humanity. We accept this fact that males as well as females are equal in all things and should be dealt with as partners in all matters. We accept this fact that no one race of people is better than the other. In fact, no one wins the race in racism. We accept this fact that communication between different people is the cure to the ignorance that breeds the disease hate. We accept this fact that a good and well-rounded education could prevent most of the ignorance that plagues the world. We accept this fact that the all is just that, the all. You can't take from the all, you can't add to the all. We are all within the all as one. That is our concept of what you call a deity. To the fulfillment of these facts, we children of the Elohim forever pledge our lives, our sacred honor, and our spiritual zeal. True peace, true peace. All right, I see you there, Brother Brian. I'll bring you up. Happy Holy Day, peacemakers. All right, so let me send you an invite, Brother Brian. So that is our daily affirmations of loyalty, which you should, like I say here every week, should be reading over that with your family. For those that will be coming in listening to the replay, please be aware that there is a 15-minute delay to the start of the holy day, so you won't hear anything for about good 10-15 minutes. But nonetheless, we are here, we're live and ready to enjoy our holy day for the night. So next we're going to jump into our divine constitution and bylaws and our Moorish prayer for tonight. I don't know if you can see the invite, Brother Brian, but I sent it to you. All right, so check that when you can. I'm about to get into our divine constitution and bylaws and complete our opening for tonight. And next we'll be jumping into our weekly readings. So y'all know how it go. 2 fingers up, 5 fingers up, feet at a 45-degree angle, facing the east. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through His holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Amen. So we're going to open up now with our divine constitution and bylaws from the Moorish Science Temple of America. As it reads, Act 1. The Grand Sheik and the Chairman of the Moorish Science Temple of America is empowered to make law and enforce laws with the assistance of the Prophet and the Grand Body of the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Assistant Grand Sheik is to assist the Grand Sheik in all affairs if he lives according to love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and it is known before the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Act 2. All meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 and love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his Father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is the holy day for all Muslims all over the world. Act 3. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice must be proclaimed and practiced by all members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. No member is to put in danger or accuse falsely his brother or sister on any occasion at all that may harm his brother or sister, because Allah is love. Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are a part and parcel of the government and must live the life accordingly. Act 5. This organization of the Moorish Science Temple of America is not to cause any confusion or to overthrow the laws and constitution of the said government, but to obey hereby. Act 6. With us, all members must proclaim their nationality, and we're teaching our people their nationality and their divine creed, that they may know that they are a part and parcel of this said government, and know that they are not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians. Because these names were given to slaves by slaveholders in 1779 and lasted until 1865 during the time of slavery. But this is a new era of time now, and all men now must proclaim their free national name to be recognized by the government in which they live, and the nations of the earth. This is the reason why Allah, the great God of the universe, ordained Noble Drew Ali, the prophet, to redeem his people from their sinful ways. The Moorish Americans are the descendants of the ancient Moabites who inhabited the northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Act 7. All members must promptly attend their meetings and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Members must pay their dues and keep in line with all necessities of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Then you are entitled to the name of faithful. Husband, you must support your wife and children. Wife, you must obey your husband and take care of your children and look after the duties of your household. Sons and daughters must obey father and mother and be industrious and become part of the uplifting of humanity. All Moorish Americans must keep their hearts and minds pure with love and their bodies clean with water. This divine covenant is from your holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali, through the guidance of his Father God Allah. True peace, Islam. All right. So let's open up with the weekly readings, y'all. And we'll be officially open for Holy Day. So before I do that, let me pin the link to the temple at the top of the room. That way you guys could visit the website, check it out. All right, so let's jump right into this. Weekly reading, y'all. All right, and I'm still working on the store. I'm sorry about that delay. Still working on the platform for the store, so that way you guys could get the books for $1, download them, as well as purchase any regalia that's needed from the temple. So let's jump right into our Holy Qur'an, Circle 7. And we're going to start out with chapter 25 of the Holy Qur'an, Circle 7, which is called the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation. And as it reads, ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother had given you suck. Let the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when ye separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole race, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. All right, so next we're going to jump into chapter 47 and 48. You're free to come up, Brother Brian. I don't know if you've seen the invite yet. I sent it to you. You may have to raise your hand. I'm not sure if you're having a glitch over there or not. But let's jump into chapter 47 and 48. Chapter 47 is called Egypt, the capital empire of the dominion of Africa. And it reads, the inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanites from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family was second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the father and the son, the dominion of Cush, northeast and southeast Africa, and northwest and southwest Africa was his father's dominion of Africa. In later years, many of their brethren from Asia and the Holy Lands joined them. The Moabites from the land of Moab, who received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle and inhabit northwest Africa, they were the founders and are the true possessors of the present Moroccan Empire, with their Canaanite, Hittite, and Amorite brethren who sovereign from the land of Canaan seeking new homes. Their dominion and inhabitation extended from northeast and southwest Africa across Great Atlantis, even unto the north, the present North, South, and Central America, and also Mexico and the Atlantis Islands, before the great earthquake which caused the Great Atlantic Ocean. The river Nile was dredged and made by the ancient pharaohs of Egypt in order to trade with the surrounding kingdoms. Also the Niger River was dredged by the great pharaoh of Egypt in those ancient days for trade, and it extends eastward from the river Nile westward across the Great Atlantic. It was used for trade and transportation. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no Negro, black, or colored race attached to the human family, because all the inhabitants of Africa were and are of the human race, descendants of the ancient Canaanite nation from the Holy Land of Canaan. What your ancient forefathers were, you are today without doubt or contradiction. There is no one who was able to change man from the descendant nature of his forefathers, unless his power extends beyond the great universal creator Allah himself. These holy and divine laws are from the prophet Zabuwr, the founder of the uniting of the Moorish Science Temple of America. These laws are to be strictly preserved by all the temples, by the members of all the temples of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that they may learn to open their meeting and guide it according to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Every subordinate temple of the Grand Major Temple is to form under the covenant of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, and to create their own laws and customs, in conjunction with the laws of the Holy Prophet and the Grand Temple. I, the Prophet Zabuwr, was sent by the great God Allah to warn all Asiatics of America to repent from their sinful ways before that great and awful day that it should have come. The time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess its own. Through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honored not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black and colored, was given to the Asiatics of America, whom were of Moorish descent, because they honored not the principles of their mother and father, and strayed after the gods of Europe, of whom they knew nothing. True peace, brother Brian. True peace, brother. True peace, noble. I sent you an invite. I'm not sure if you've seen it. I'm gonna send it again. Okay, there you go. You got your hand raised. It should bring you up. Can you see the invite? It should give you a green notification at the top. Just hit accept. True peace. It should bring you up. I don't know if you see the notification yet. Let me know if you see the notification. Yeah, it should flash at the top of your screen. Let me know before I go into chapter 48, called the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies. I'm jumping to that chapter next before I open it. Trying to see if we can get Brother Brian up here. All right. Let me know when you see the invite, Noble. It should be on the top of your screen. So we're going to read chapter 48, called the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies. And as it reads, the last prophet in these days is Noble Ali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways, and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days, to warn and stir up the nation, and to prepare them to receive the divine creed which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days, there came a forerunner of Jesus, who was divinely prepared by the great God Allah, and his name is Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam, and his name is Noble Ali, who was prepared and sent to this earth by Allah to teach the old time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of man, that every nation shall and must worship under their own vine and fig tree, and return to their own and be one with their Father God Allah. The Moorish Science Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the Prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States, etc., that the world may hear and know the truth, that among the descendants of Africa there is still much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemption of the sons of man under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We as a clean and pure nation descended from the inhabitants of Africa do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe. Neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. The covenant of the great God Allah: honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earth land, which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee. Come, all ye Asiatics of America, and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights, because you're not Negroes. Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We're trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourself with the family of nations. We honor all true and divine prophets. True peace. We are officially open, y'all. We're going to jump through some of our holy instructions real quick and brief description. But we are officially open for the divine message that will be delivered tonight. And any questions that come through. I don't know why it ain't bringing you up, brother. Are you seeing my invite, Noble? Let me know in the chat. If you can see the invite at the top of the room, or on the top of your app. You probably got to close the app and come right back in. Okay, that's me tripping, because Jonathan just messaged and I don't even see Jonathan. Okay, now I see him. Can you see the invite, Noble? Noble Jonathan? Okay, Jonathan just popped up. Yeah, it's not sending me the notification. That might be on my end. Jonathan, I'm gonna make you a moderator so you can help mod the room. Let me step out real quick.
Hello, greetings. All
True
right.
peace.
Thank you.
Just,
Thank you.
I don't know what they doing on my end. Poor connection. I got you, Jonathan. True peace, y'all. So we just finished the opening. Let me mod you up. Can you send an invite to Sister Majestic so we can bring her on up on stage too as well? I don't know what they doing with mine. All right, there she go. Let me mod you up. Y'all kind of look after the room while I go into tonight's message, and let's get it started, y'all. Just finished the divine open. I mean, I'm sorry, the divine constitution and bylaws. We did our daily affirmations, and we just did our weekly reading, which is chapter 47, 48, and chapter 25 of the Holy Quran, Circle 7. So if you get a chance, if you don't have a copy of the Holy Quran, Circle 7, I'll show you how to get access to that. Or you can just Google it real quick, get yourself a copy so you can be ready for the holy days when we go over it and actually have that available. But before like I said, before we go into the divine message for tonight, I do want to skim through, kind of brush through the holy instructions from the prophet, because the prophet left us with instructions on the things that we're dealing with in these modern days and time, especially a lot of stuff that we're encountering on a day-to-day basis. So um let's do that. So the prophet made sure that he gave instructions on misery, which we all know misery loves company. We talk about it here every week. Being inconsistent was the main point coming from the prophet about the misery, and actually not self-loathing, because when you have a real mission, the whole self-pity thing and a lot of that could also be a distraction, not just with the negative doubts and other things that come about. Those are healthy because it helps your mind grow. But when it turns into self-loathing, that's when you miss the point of the lesson that you're being taken through, especially by the divine forces of nature and by the creator himself. So the the prophet also gave us instructions on the insufficiency of knowledge, which is another key issue to why we are destroyed as a people, because of the insufficiency, the lack of knowledge that we have. Not even just not having no knowledge, but the lack of knowledge. Because you got to remember, the source, especially in the Quran, says he looks over those that don't know. So for you that do know better, you got to be on your P's and Q's. But if you're insufficient in the knowledge, because you can know better, but you might still be insufficient in your knowledge. So that could lead to just making those mistakes that we make through life, those punishments that we end up in. But like I said, those are also lessons. But this is how you also get caught up into false hope and flattery and all those different things. So the prophet left us with those holy instructions. Those are things you want to go over with yourself personally every week as we go through these weekly readings, because like I say a lot on holy day, just because we have repetition of reading the same chapters every week is not to bore you. It's really for bringing out new things, because you find something new every time. The most high, one of the main scriptures that we should always recollect, is the fact that as a man thinketh, so be it. But as a man renews his mind, he refines himself, or man or woman, you're going to always be in a state of doing it. So you don't want to get caught in analysis paralysis. We all go through those things. We all deal with that. I know myself. I deal with a lot of actions that holds me back due to the fact of analysis paralysis. So when you renew your mind and you come back to emptying the mind and emptiness, or just what they call 0 point reference, come back to that 0 point of mind, Then you can go on to the next mission. Like I say, you want to turn those things not into a lessening of yourself, but a lesson for yourself. So the next holy instructions that the prophet gave us was instructions on inconsistency, the lack of consistency that we have. Consistency always builds power. That's also a part of the lack of, I'm sorry, the instructions for weakness, that lack and insufficiency of knowledge as well. So when you lack in the consistency, we showing up here every week. But when you show up for yourself, not just the obligations that you have, when you show up for yourself and you're consistent about it, that daily ritual that you have, getting up, meditating, reading books, whatever it is, getting out walking, taking a hour walk, whatever it is, when you do that consistently, you build up the power, you build up the essence, the quickening of the goal that you're trying to attain. So the prophet also gave instructions on the instability of man, which is stemming from that lack of consistency. So if you get caught up in bragging and all these other different things, or you get excited from just accomplishing one portion of a thing, that could throw you off your game. It brings in that lack of focus. It brings in that instability, because you can start to gain the consistency, start to build the power, but when you put that energy in the wrong space or the wrong place, then this is what leads to the instability. I go through it, I deal with it myself, because there are things I should be putting my energy toward that help me stay stable, as not just as a person, but in business adventures, especially when it comes to managing a business, managing a family, managing a community. And it's one thing when you have to face adversity, but that consistency, that's what helps us stay resilient and stand strong and stand on our merit even more. When you have that consistency, when you have that power, that vitality built up. So especially focus, because consistency help you focus greatly. So the prophet also left us with instructions on the pinnacles of wisdom, which we know that is the most valuable thing in the world. There's nothing more valuable than the pinnacle of wisdom, what we call here sound right wisdom. So we all know to be aware of the fools and the foolishness, the folly that's out here, everything that's coming from the lower self. The prophet also left us with instructions on the soul of man, which we call the holy breath. In Hebrew, it's referred to as the ruach, the soul, the breath, the sacred breath, the shmei, prana, etc. All these things. We know that that part of us is the unchangeable, the immortal portion. That's what gathers us here in this mental reservoir. The point of us being here in the space that we're in, especially at this day and time, at the actual time that it is, we're tapping into something. It's just not okay. We scheduled a meeting and we scheduled an event, and this is the time we're gonna have it, and bada boom, bada bam, we having a meeting. No, we know the designated time, the designated hour to do a designated thing. That's called destiny. So we get consistent with that. We start building up not just the faith, but the loyalty. The 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 teachers and master teachers, especially before us, had to deal with people that were faithful but not true. And then in some instances, people that were true but not faithful. Lacked the consistency. So lacking that consistency creates the weakness. The weakness creates all the misery and everything else. So the prophet also gave us instructions about the breath of heaven, which, like I said, that ties into the soul, which holds all the knowledge, holds all the wisdom. We know getting more wisdom, not just the knowledge, not just getting things to know about, but getting the wisdom of that knowledge is what it's about. Because you can have all the knowledge in the world, but that don't mean you can do anything with it. But if you got the right knowledge, the right wisdom, and you know the pinnacle of wisdom, which is to take action on that knowledge, then you're tapping into your higher self. You're tapping into the oversoul that governs the souls, all souls on the planet, off the planet. And that goes back to how we breathe, the breath, tuning in with each other. I'm not sure if they got the meditation music playing in the background, if y'all can hear it or not, but usually I try to keep the meditation on while we're on here, especially during this time, because that helps you get into a tranquil state of mind. It helps bring out the questions that you might need to ask for this day and time that need to be put on record. So the prophet also gave us instructions on knowing who we are, knowing thyself. That's an old anarcha, an old motif for us as a people. Knowing who we are, knowing where we came from, knowing our divine creator, Dikra, remembering the divine creator as it says in the scriptures, remembering who you are. The quickening happens through the spirit. So I mean the body is not the only thing that's alive and thinking. You have your essence that is alive and thinking. The spirit actually quickens the body, not the body quicken the spirit, as we say. So the prophet also gave us instructions on religion. As I tell y'all, religion is a culture, it's a custom. This is the business side of things. This is the economic side of things. So you don't want to get caught up in just religion, but you don't want to just get too caught up in spirituality either, because then you start to deal with the other side of things, like the lack of consistency, the instabilities. We know religion is a place where fanatical people like to gather in groups of gossip and being a part of propaganda type movements, and those become faiths. Those becomes religion. People put their faith in that piece of gossip or false information or misinformation. So the prophet left us with some instructions on religion and how we should look at it as peacemakers of Muslims. The prophet also gave us instructions on sincerity, being genuine, the beauty of truth. Remember, as I say, truth doesn't belong to us. We have that piece of rhetoric or rhetorical statements now of my truth. Let me speak my truth. This truth. Truth don't belong to you. Truth is truth. Right is right. Wrong is wrong. Facts can belong to you, though. This can be a fact that pertains to me. It can be my facts. These are the facts that I have gathered. But truth, no one possesses the truth. Truth is art. Truth is the source. Truth is Allah. No one is the God. We should understand that. We should really be ringing the bell when people start to talk in that manner, or it should raise a red flag, if y'all understand what I'm saying. So understanding when someone communicates, out of the mouth the heart speaks. So when they're talking, that heart is speaking. You should be listening. The prophet also gave instructions on gratitude, being grateful, saying thank you, thank you, thank you. Understanding what you reap is what you sow. The prophet also gave instructions on charity, being charitable. There's nothing wrong with being charitable, though we do not want to get caught up in charity, but there's nothing wrong with charity. As I just said, what you reap is what you sow. So if you sowing benevolence, you sowing good deeds, this is what you're going to reap. The prophet also gave us instructions on justice. Justice. The prophet gave us instructions on our social duties, the things that we must do to maintain justice in the community, the things that we need to be aware of, the temptations and these different things. But we have our social duties. Which one of those social duties is being here in the temple, not out there listening to the slander in the world, gathering amongst a group of people that are tapping into the divine name, the divine frequency. Not all of the divine discussions as we touched on last week in reading El's Holy Qur'aan. The prophet also gave us instructions on your employment, the master and the servant. Everyone is working. Even the master is a servant at times. Even the servant is a master at times. But there are divine instructions going all the way back to the ancient sages. This is our indigenous culture and proverbs of life and how we deal with those things. The virtues, the obedience, those that are loyal and true. Not just faithful but not true, and or true but not faithful. We are the true and the faithful. We come together in truth. The truth is what shall set you free, as we read in the Temple 101s. The prophet also gave us instructions on unity, which we should be kind of going over here every week. This will be something that we touch on. But we know that the unity has nothing to do with gathering and folly. But it also helps you to know whether you should be doubting something. Not giving something the benefit of the doubt, because you can't benefit by doubting the truth. But knowing when to doubt things that don't have solidarity. They don't have the consistency. They lack inconsistency. They don't have the stability. They lack stability. This is where you learn to actually have the proper doubts about things and not just out here giving things benefit of the doubt, as they say. So the prophet gave us instructions about how we treat our children, how we work with our children as we raise them. They shall not depart. As we know, this is something that is scriptural for us, and how our children blossom from watching us as parents. So we also learned how to deal with them, even in the disagreeableness, and what to do with that disagreeableness. The prophet left us ancient instructions that come from the wise sages, as he mentioned before, or as mentioned in the El Holy Quran, or not El Holy Quran, but the Circle 7 Holy Quran. The prophet left us with instructions for men and women, for our marriages. So a lot of the things that you see Moorish men doing, if you just revert back to the Holy Quran Circle 7, you say, all right, okay, let me see if that, if if that's the case. 9 times out of 10 it might not be. But those that stick to the wise for their own improvement, you can always reflect back and see, oh, okay, that brother's living according to love, true peace, freedom, and justice. The prophet also left us with instructions for our young men and the issues that we're having today with our young men, and why things are crazy the way they are. Our young men are being shot in the streets, kept out of the financial system. They have all the access, even though there's a lot of youngsters that are wealthy. They have made a lot of money in the financial system. Our wealth goes beyond just having riches in a bank account, and that we need to understand, especially as a community of people. It's one thing to hear some of our young artists say, well, that they didn't, them people ain't do nothing for me. Because what type of community are we establishing as a people, especially in the neighborhoods that's around us? We're not operating in transcendental communities. We're not joining or building transcendental communities. It's not just for the man to build and grow a community. It takes both man and woman. It takes a village to raise a child. Islam, true peace. So let's jump into, like I say, tonight's divine message. Just want to brush through the holy instructions from the prophet, because we have to be up to par with those instructions as well. So they're not really a part of the opening, but they are the opening of the divine message for us here every week that we want to make sure that we go over. So those that come listen to the replay, they understand the structure of how a temple is supposed to operate, setting that example. But also, whenever me as a Grand Sheik, I'm not present, and there's other appointed divine ministers or other adepts, they can take the reign and open up. You should have access to the parliamentary opening, which you can get a copy of in the civics. Should be able to get a copy of it in the ministry 101 course that we have. I'll be pinning to the top of the room in a bit, but you should be able to open that up and run through the parliamentary opening yourself. This is how every temple, whether it's physical, virtual, every temple or the Moorish Temple of America opens up with their parliamentary opening, whether they call it parliamentary opening or not. It's the Fatiha, it's the opening, which is the chapter that we're going to be actually reading tonight in El Holy Quran. But first thing first, as I said last week, these discussions that keep us distracted as a people and not on the true mission of where we as a people and the soul of us as a people need to be focused on. This is why when we have these discussions as a whole, we can come together in concert about all the things that we want to do, but what happens after that conversation? What actions are put into place after that conversation? We go back to our daily struggles. We go back to our daily lives, our daily issues. You have the divine and national movement put in place, but we should be taking this divine and national movement to another level. Like I said, just helping like I said last week, just helping someone learn how to pay their bills, which is something that's simple, that's simple knowledge. It's not necessarily a whole class needed for that information. You show the basic laws that pertain to those type of things, and we move on to the next conversation. But that doesn't solve our lack of incentive-based economy. That doesn't solve the fact that we, as a Moorish Temple of America, sovereign theocratic government, need to have a grand treasury. Without a treasury, like the prophets say, we are nothing. And the movement is not just about showing people how to pay their bills. As I said, the process of this stuff is not just about paperwork status. Your status on paperwork, and those things that it can show that you're a Moor. If you're not living like a Moor, which is a person of nobility, a person of high regard, high character, the paperwork doesn't change that you haven't redeemed yourself. You got a lot of Moors walking around with European psychology that's been given to them and ingrained in them, and they can't get themselves out the grotto, which is the ghetto. We have a problem with doing things proper. There's nothing wrong with being urban. There's nothing wrong with being cultural, having an accent, any of those things. But nobility represents decorum, class, not classism. Class, what they call class. They don't get that from European psychology. They get that from the Moors. The Moors went over there and cleaned them up. Melanated people, indigenous peoples went over there and cleaned them up and influenced them to be cleaner people. We read this from the literature of the prophet. So that comes from you. You should be proud of your king, your forefathers, your kings and goddesses and empresses, your ancestral lineage, which is not just slaves or those that were kept in bondage. And a lot of that bondage is based on your faith. Your faith. because you can get analysis paralysis in that case too, and we wonder why things just don't happen a certain way, because it's our mentality. We're not dealing with those subconscious things in our mind, those subconscious programming. It comes back to bite us in the butt a lot. So true peace, Noble. I'm sorry, I ain't even see that, Sade. True peace, Sister Majestic. True peace, Noble. All right, so these things come back to really bite us in the gluteus. So having that redemption, having that foundation established, that I have to change my behavior pattern, I have to change my mental pattern. That's first thing first. Not, well, I'm coming here to learn how to pay my bills and get my bills paid, because that's what they think of us when they think of the Moors. They think, oh, we gonna get our bills paid, and this, that, and the third. That's what it's gonna be. Okay, I was wondering, my PTR kind of weird. I don't know if they got me glitching over here, y'all, or what. All right, but I'm gonna send you a message, brother Brian. Check your message real quick, and before I continue on. All right, so yeah, check your message when you can, brother Brian. But that's what is really holding our people back, is the fact that this is about a soul and a spiritual redemption here. This has nothing to do with putting paperwork on record to represent your status change. You can do all that paperwork stuff, but your actions and your behavior, like I said, in your mindset, none of that has changed. You're still thinking with animal logic and not from a new logical perspective, let alone even being around a group of faith-based people that will even teach you about the new logical perspective. They just still classify it as sound wisdom. Like I said, we moving forward, because at this point we need to understand as a people that we have not just a philosophy, we have a sound doctrine. We go and say, well, you institutionalize. Okay, you using the word institution and institutionalize as if it's always something bad in a deconnotative manner. So what's the connotative manner? Like I said, we look at what the prophet put down in the literature, but we only looking at the deconnotation. There also has to be some positive meanings to these words, or words that we actually gave definition to, because the prophet told you directly, this is what they say black means. This is what they say the European psychology. So what does the Moorish psychology say those words mean? What do our perspective of it means? So when we have our own institutions and you get caught up in the rhetoric, is that institution based? Because an institution is to create, to develop. It's an organization. Organization has the root word organ. If your organs get stagnant, they don't grow, they don't develop, they don't fulfill their true purpose. So an institution has nothing to do with something bad. It just means a law, custom, or a practice. That's it. All customs and all laws don't represent something bad. He went to jail, now he's institutionalized. Okay, so he picked up those jailhouse customs. Now that word has a disdain on it when we use it, because the tone behind it, and it's being used in a derogatory, deconnotative way. So when it comes to the term doctrine, same thing. Oh, he's indoctrinated. Oh yeah, I'm in the doctrine. I'm in the great book, the book they call the Book of Life. That's me. I'm in there. I'm in what you call the Akashic records. Yeah, I'm in that book. Yeah, you find me in the records. You find me in this lifetime, that lifetime, and many more lifetimes after that. So we got a problem with with how we communicate. We ain't communicate proper. Even the master teacher said they got a head start on English. It ain't just about them creating English. English is actually coming from Udi. I'm sorry. Come from African peoples. So who created English again? If the lineage of it and the lineage is African based. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm keep messing up the pronunciation of the word, but I think it's Urdic dialect. So where does that language actually come from? Who it comes from? Us or European psychology? It actually came from us. If we the ones who taught them how to read, how to write, if we remember straight, we give too much power to deconnotation, and that really affects your subconscious majorly. You can't hear a term without being triggered. You can't hear a word without being triggered. I go through it. Like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. Let me get myself right, because got this crazy voice talking to me saying all kind of negative when I need to be listening to the positive forces of nature. Out of the mouth, the heart speaks. What is your heart actually saying? Versus the frequencies and radio waves of this artificial or superficial reality that we have been living through. Reality is organic, or illusions is what I should say. They're illusions, because reality is organic. This is not an illusion that we're living in. This is the quickening of everything that's happening with frequencies, vibrations, sound, and color, down to the micro scale, all the way up to this macro. So they're gonna lack what they give you, especially in this new day and time where you have studies of parapsychology, studies of the mind. So we have to be prepared to take up our own doctrine before it get whitewashed. And here I am laying down the work so hey, we can come in and take it up as a sound doctrine for us as a people. It's not people, it's not many, or it's not even people out here that profess to be neologists. Hey, I'm a neologist. That's what I do. Because we know psychology itself started as a branch study that came from the Greeks that got it out of ancient Egypt. So if we understand our culture, then we'll be able to take up the science of what we call sound wisdom. Those who are able to hear Ishma, those who can hear El, Ishmael, those who can hear El, God. You can hear the positive forces of nature, not just the rattlings of your ego, not just the rattlings of your animal instinct, but divine instinct and the positive forces of nature, the positive intelligences, the divine intelligences. the angelic forces, the angelic beings, ancestors, etc. You'll be able to tap into that. This has nothing to do with gathering a religious group of fanatics. We actually have a sound doctrine that we are establishing. And you have those that are looking for that new information to come out. Where is it coming from? Where's the source? But before we go into it, we got to get the foundation. We got to get the foundation of going from the old cycle into a new cycle, going from an old paradigm way of thinking into a new paradigm and way of thinking. And for us not to get caught in the lag of time, because like I say, even with me, with analysis paralysis, that causes inconsistency, that causes weakness, that causes distractions. But at the same time, being already ahead of time, you want to be in the now time. It's okay to be present in the now. So, of course, we don't have as much as I think we should have, as far as the doctrines going into explaining nulogy, going into giving our cultural science in a form of academia. It's a lot to do, but same issue that one of our master teachers dealt with is the same issue now. Same issue the prophet dealt with. Same issue now. Our lack of focus on what our main thing as a people needs to be. So we can go to concerts where thousands of people at the concert screaming and yelling, dancing and jumping around, doing whatever, promoting and speaking about everything that has nothing to do with us coming together and having civic engagement and promoting everything of the Lord self before we come together in concert here with thousands of people, hundreds of people alone, gather not for a vain discussion, but to hear the truth, to bring out truths, to put pieces to the puzzle together, to have that civic engagement amongst each other so we can address current issues. And not from a propaganda standpoint, not from an opinionistic standpoint, not from the biasness of one person's opinion. And we got to sift through all of that along with the personalized facts. Well, that's a fact for me, and it's a fact for you. It might not be a fact for this person, because like I said, they tried to put possession on the truth. Truth can't be possessed. Truth is what sets you free. Truth is truth. Right is right. Wrong is wrong. Has nothing to do with a personal opinion or bias or feeling. This is where divine intelligence come in, not just animal instinct and logic. We was told in the beginning was the word, as in the logos, but it's kun faya kun. Not in the beginning was the divine word or the divine mind, as we know from the divine wisdom in the sacred writings of Tahuti. The Hikmah. So, of course, y'all know I want to jump into else Holy Quran tonight. Last week we left off on chapter 3. We opening up with chapter 4, which is called El Fatiha, which means the opening. So we're gonna open up with that. But I want to make sure we get the basis of what our message will be here tonight. Like I say, deliver what Spirit wants us to deliver. The prophet say he always speaks through Spirit. So everything we do here is not directly scripted, other than the parliamentary opening. Other than that, we let Spirit guide us on, especially me as the Great Sheik, what we gonna speak about. But I want it to be where, like I say all the time, it just don't have to be me, and y'all get tired of me parakeeting from speaking on stage. But we have some scheduled speakers, not programmed, but scheduled speakers that's coming with higher knowledge programming. But we have some scheduled speakers because when we start creating that content, not for entertainment purposes, but uplifting fallen humanity and souls, it's okay to participate in commerce. Even in the scriptures, you have that in the scriptures, and a lot of these pastors get shamed for that, but it tells them to create economics for their congregation. Now, the portion of the equity in the, in the development of that might not be a fair proportion, but at the same time, as I mentioned last week, you shouldn't have no broke congregation. You shouldn't have congregations in poverty. We should be investing in gold as a people. We should have things and resources of wealth for us and our community. That's why we're participating what we're participating in. But that also don't mean a congregation that starts out is going to be wealthy. You have to build it. You build. Moses and his people, they had to track around before they before they even got to the spot. So he had to make sure the people that was with him was loyal before he even got to the portion of what they came to build. And they still ran around for a while before they even understood what they was doing. But at least here we got a solid direction, especially with the Noon Project, the News Project, and what we're doing, that divine inheritance, the project of the true light. For those that know, they know. For those that copy, I wish you good luck, because it's a divine inheritance, which everyone has their own unique gifts. We all see the same future in our mind's eye, but everyone is not meant to do the same work. But we're not coming together in concert about that conversation. We can go to the little this and the big, big this and whatever other big name artist at the time is having a concert. But we can't come together by the thousands and speak in concertation and concert about real things that matter, real things that affect us. Like I say, after we had that conversation, that kumbaya conversation on Facebook, or it can be on Clubhouse, wherever, Twitter. We all had that kumbaya. Yeah, we need to do this, and this is happening, and this. But what happens after? People go back to their personal issues, and a lot of your personal issues could be addressed if we as a people come together. We're paying, for example, we're paying for water. We're paying for housing when you should have free housing for everybody. We're paying for necessities of law, which by law is technically illegal. Make it make sense. We live in a backwards economy. We live in an economy that's basically selling us wolf tickets, lies. But we buy it. You buy into it every day. You keep it alive every day. We say let's have Black Friday where we don't go to none of their stores, and we just buy black. It's bigger than that. It's coming out of that financial system, period. Operate on your own form of economics that doesn't contradict itself. Like the prophets say, create a cooperative spirit of economics. So with that, let's jump into I'm sorry, not chapter 4, it's chapter 5, y'all. Alhamd, the gratitude, which is one of the instructions from the prophet, the holy instructions, or it's also called Al-Fataha, which means the opening. And the original chapter is 5. They changed it in the mistranslated versions of the Quran to chapter 1. So, and it's a real short chapter or surah of the Quran. So we're gonna read through the ayats real quick, and we can get to the rest of tonight's message, or we'll open it up for some questions, answers, and things like that, and talk about some current events, things that y'all got on your mind. Like I say, I don't want to be here parakeeting all night for Holy Day, but let's jump into this and we can get right to that. So with that, begin all things using the name of the source, Allah, the Rahman, who is the most merciful. All gratitude is for him, Ra, the sustainer, Anu, of all the known worlds, the yielder, the merciful, ruler of the day of decision. It is you, Anu, we are Lulu Amelu, slaves for, and you we ask for help. Calm us for the way of the ones who stand up straight, which is the agreeable, the way of those who you have bestowed your grace, not those who have been cursed, nor those who have gone astray, which is the disagreeable. Sudaka Alahu El Azim, which is how every chapter in the translated version of this El Holy Quran ends, which means the truth, the truth of Allah, the Supreme. All right, y'all. So unless y'all want me to read chapter 6, but chapter 5 is real short. That's right, Majestic. Kun fayakun, be and it is. That's right. So shall it be. As we think, as a man think it, man or woman think it, so shall it be, y'all. So let's jump into some of the literature from the prophet. But like I say, before we do that, if y'all got any questions, feel free to open up. The floor is open. We're gonna jump into some literature because I didn't expect that chapter to be that short. But let's go ahead and talk about some current events. I see you down there, brother Abdullah. If you want to come up on stage, let me know. I'll send you an invite. But anybody got any questions for what's happening, or you want to just add some contributions into tonight's message, feel free. Don't be afraid, don't be ashamed, don't be shy. So with that, I'm gonna leave some time and space for y'all to get back to your mics and come off the mics and add on in. All right, true peace, true peace. So, is you trying to say something, brother Jonathan? If you are, your mic is not coming through. I'm not hearing you. I don't know if anybody else can hear you, but I know I can. I see a I hear you now a little bit. You got a bad
My
signal.
connection's been
Yeah, you in the
my
matrix
connection's
real
been
heavy,
poor.
Noble. You in the matrix real heavy. All right, so let's jump into some of the literature from the prophet. But before we do that, like I say, any current events I know that's taking place right now, I haven't really checked into any up-to-date news, any major things that's been happening in the news. I don't really know of anything off top of the head for tonight. Haven't really been looking into it, but I know the elections and things like that, they're coming up, and you're about to get into a real heavy season of politics. But as we know, as people of politics, of people of a political society and politics, we know that the prophet instructed us to also be involved, because if we're not the ones stepping up as the representatives and electors of our communities, as I mentioned earlier, we are part of these communities that are not operating on transcendental ways of life. They trying to transform us and not transcend, which is a whole different thing there going on with that. So this is why it's important to be involved in politics and just be up to date. Also, like I said, with current events, because we come together and have those discussions about everything else, but we don't come together in concert about the things that are going on in our communities. I know recently there was more shootings, so I don't want to really touch too much on that. Um, and a lot of the things that are happening with us as a people or within our communities, but we got to have more positive things that are taking place, events that are coming through the media from us as a people. We promote everything else and spread everything else other than the positive things that are actually taking place. And we put more energy toward those negatives than we do the positive things that are actually taking place within our community. So that's this week's current events. Because, like I said, I don't want to go into those negative things unless y'all want to bring it up and things that's been happening. But I know I'm aware of the recent shootings. I don't want to act like we're not paying attention to anything that's going on. But like I said, that I don't want to highlight that too much because it's just a rinse and repeat of the distractions from us focusing on what the end goal is, and that's building a chaperone society to where we don't have to deal with these things that we're dealing with as a people. Though we have to not deny them, accept them, because that's the only way to move past. But at the same time, we don't have to dwell on the matters of hatred that are being expressed. So, like I said, let's jump into some of the literature from the prophet. Let's jump into some of this literature here. And let's go into the wisdom. Because, as I mentioned earlier, what the prophet said in a piece of literature called "What Shall We Call Him?" The prophet clearly made it known that that is their form of science. Is their science. So, what science is we gonna tap into? We have multiple sciences that we are the progenitors of, but what sciences are we going to tap into? So let's jump in. Like I said, let's jump into some of the literature from the prophet here. All right. So I want to go into this one. This is a message from the historical leaders to America, and it's kind of a long. kind of a long message as far as on book, but I want to go through this message from the historical leaders. So, like I said, the prophet, like I mentioned earlier, the prophet take messages and readings from the sages from ancient times, but not just ancient times, but even our modern day sages, and brought it into his time in the early 1900s. But that doesn't mean that that positive wisdom and those aphorisms have changed, have shifted value, have shifted in relevance. None of that has shifted nor changed. Yeah, you learning about these new quarks that pertain to quantum physics. That doesn't change the positive wisdoms that we need to survive as a people. That doesn't change positive knowledge. So let's get into this historical message from the prophet. The prophet says, in connection with the aims, objects, rules, and regulations of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement of our organization, covering its inception, rise, and progress of the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will be satisfactory to you and be the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relations with mankind in general. I further most anxiously hope this brief statement will help you to more clearly see the duty and wisdom of, at all times, upholding those fundamental principles which are desired for our civilization of our posterity, such as obedience to law, respect, and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. So this message is from the prophet saying, I'm hoping you grasp from this statement that I'm about to make and go into the origins of the Moorish Science Temple of America, that you understand that in this day and time, we need to have respect for the law. We're building for our prosperity, our generations after us, the Sicily, the bloodline, loyalty to government, which is our communities, our trust, that public beneficiary trust. The first trust you have when you're born is the public trust, is a public beneficiary trust. Some people get blocked off from those public benefits, or not even learn about the fact that when you join a community, whatever state, whatever community, that is a trust, a public trust, especially if it has an organizational structure. That is a trust structure. That's the first trust that you have. The trust from your parents and them being married, that's a trust. Whether they want to call it or not, a marriage is a trust. It's a legacy trust, simple and plain. Some people are working toward building a legacy. Some people are working towards destroying a legacy. Or, in today's time, we got a lot of fake it till you make it going on. Especially if it's a legacy. We didn't have marriage back in the day. We had what's called legacy. Because we understood what the term amun or amen or amen meant. It meant to trust, to be faithful. Those who are faithful, those who take up the obligation, not oaths, not just a vow. It's an obligation. You take up the commitment to be loyal to your wife. You take up the commitment to be loyal and faithful to your husband. You take up the commitment to be faithful and take up the obligation. It might not be fun, but if you don't do things to make those obligations fun, then you're going to walk around with Sour Patch booty. That has nothing to do with nobody else. This is why I say the repetition that when we go into the reading every week, I'm sorry if it bores you, but when I tap into spirit, it seems not to be boring, because spirit, when I empty my mind and let the divine spirit take over and let it does what it do and give my little portion, it seems not to be a lack of any excitement or anything, because it's fun to see what unfolds by way of the quickening of the spirit. There's been plenty of times where we sat here in the temple and we just go off what they call improvisation, but the propositions of the knowledge, and watch it unfold by way of spirit. Spirit say this, point this positive message out, point this next one out, and it all end up being in alignment with each other, and that wasn't even in the forethought of what we thought was going to be spoken of, especially me if I'm the one delivering the message. I didn't sit and do like the pastor do and say, all right, this is the message I'm gonna put together this sermon today, such and such and such and such. No, this is freestyle. This is free off the mind. This is freedom of thought. A lot of people had problems with the prophet and how he operated through spirit. I'm not here to bore our people to death and put them to sleep, though I want it to be a tranquil space and a mindful space that we create. As we read in last week, El's Holy Injiyl, that the Buddha had something good. He just didn't give the honors to the divine creator. That was it. And if you see the extension of that discipline, especially their content, the content of your character, how they speak gracefully, they speak intentfully as well as mindfully. So here you have the opportunity to create content, because we take these lectures and sermons and put them on YouTube. You have these lectures being put on YouTube. You have the clips that are shared to Instagram. So, and you also, all y'all are free to share clips. So that also helps, because wherever you are at, you're creating content. Especially when you get on stage, especially on this particular app, you get on stage and you start to speak. You're creating content. You're leaving a record of the things, the messages that you said. So you want to be mindful about what you're saying and what you're putting out there. But for those that are aware to what I'm stating, you have the opportunity to create and leave beautiful content, especially if in this day and time where commerce is shifting back to content creators, which is what you should be striving to be. It don't matter if you run a business. Every business owner is creating content. You have to create the information for your business. You have to create the logos for your business. Whether you do it out your own hand or not, and out the ideal of your mind's eye, the imagination of your mind's eye, you're a content creator. Once you start to write down those things that you want to come into visualization or manifestation, you're creating content. So this is why I constantly say here weekly, when I put up the link for the school, get in the school and do the work in the school, because you're building your portfolio of work, your resume of work. So when people say this, that, and the third about you and who you are, they have something to tangibly attach that to. They can't just say anything, like we talked about earlier, me and Brother Brian, about the master teacher. No, that wasn't Brother Brian. I'm sorry. That was me and Brother Raheem, about a piece of content that was done on the master teacher. You have all of that work and body of work of the master teacher, and for you to come and say this, that, and the third, and the master teacher is pointing out the same criminalistic minded people, and you're trying to put all those crimes on the master teacher, you got to some going to start making sense when the evidence come out that he didn't participate in none of that. So who are all the accusers? And another piece of the literature from the prophet, he has, we follow our leaders to the end. We don't give up. We follow the Lamb everywhere he go. Faith in the Lamb is truly wonderful. That we know. So this is why we as a people, even though it's a part of the seventh thunder, we know it, the sixth and seventh thunder, we know what day and time we in. The sixth and seventh plague of the Bible, of the scriptures. We know what day and time it is. People are gonna have a lack of respect for government. They're going to have a lack of respect for laws. That's the day and time that we're in. We're in that time. We're in those thunders. These are not just biblical things. These are ancestral indigenous prophecies as well from multiple different indigenous peoples. When you start to understand that the 7 frequency bands start to manifest themselves all across these indigenous cultures, then you got to sit back and ask yourself some questions. So what is this that I'm communicating with? What is this divine intelligence that I'm interfacing with? This is not just some high science things that we're talking about here. This is divine realms. This is divine realism, reality, divine reality that you're communicating with. We have the 3 great realities that we call in Egypt, Atum, and Amun, the 3 great realities. Now for you to step into quantum physics, you're dealing with the 4th and the quad. So we as a people need to be able to think in a quantum form of thinking, which is basically a new logical way of thinking, not just logical. So new logically, should we be against the disunity of government, which is actually represents our community? If you don't govern your mind, somebody else will govern it for you. You can't control your mind, but you can guide your mind. Your mind is also a part of that involuntary actions. There are things that are beyond our intellectual control that we don't accept as a people. There's a lot of things in the God complex of things that we can control, but there's also things that are above and outside that God complex that you and yourself can't control. Are you comfortable? Can you be comfortable with the things that you can't control? All right, so continuing on, the prophets say we organized as the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Moorish Temple of Science in the year 1925, and were legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois, November 29th, 1926. The name Moorish Temple of Science changed to the Moorish Science Temple of America, May 28, in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of the State of Illinois. The object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. Better citizens. So that furthermore pushes the fact that the prophet was trying to make us not better slaves, but better citizens. Being subject to something does not make you a slave. Being subject to your kids make you a slave? It makes you obligated and subject to that obligation. Now, we can call it slavery because as we say in Arabic, Abdullah of Abd, which means servant or slave of Allah. But technically, being bonded, and the term slavery and bondage is technically not the same meaning and terms. So you're bonded to Allah. You're in bondage to the divine creator. You are a servant of the divine creator. You're a bondsman and woman of the divine creator. But the term slavery, when you use that in context, creates a deconnotation. And we know the word slave doesn't really have a positive connotation to it. So that's not proper context. So understanding that when you say citizen or even national, that you're bonded, you're obligated to that community, you're obligated to that landmass, you're bonded. Bondage is not necessarily always a bad thing because it has a positive connotation and a negative deconnotation to that term. Slavery isn't a two-way street like that. Now, you can use it in a two-way street if you're metaphorically speaking. Like you can say you slaving out here for your family, you slaving out here for your wife, which you can turn it into a positive aphorism. But universally, we know you can't really too much look at slavery in a positive manner in a universal sense of things. But when you use a different term that does have a more positive connotation in a universal sense, then that makes sense. Then we can get the message delivered more properly to our people about being citizens. When we come across these things such as paperwork or status change, and these processes that are not necessarily business procedures, it gets us excited. But then we're not realizing we're subjecting ourselves to patriotism and the sovereign citizen concept of things. There's no such thing as a sovereign citizen. Can be sovereign and a citizen at the same time. You can't be free of something and bonded to something at the same time. This is why when we went into dictatorships, it caused so much confusion, because the sovereign, which they would refer to as the monarch in ancient times, would create dictatorships, despotism, and then tyranny and tyrannical rulership, tyrannical mentalities. And we forgot about our nucratic or nucracy form of thinking, nucracy form of structure. Even in ancient Egypt, there was not just the pharaoh. You had the triad, you had the priest, you had the vizier. There were checks and balances. This is where today's meritocracy actually comes from. It comes from the ancient meritocracy philosophy of ancient Egypt. So if we don't dive into political science, we can't get to the political theorems. We get caught up in political theory. So we get caught up in all of the semantic terms and the semantics and all the different forms of semantical use that we might not even be aware of that's happening, because we're not understanding our ancient political structure. We don't know who we are as a people, as a community. So when we learn who we are, we remember who we are, and understand our ancient Mohammedan religion, which branched through the caliphaship, going all the way back to Adam down to Abraham, etc. And you understood how indigenous cultures operated involuntarily, just naturally amongst themselves, then you will understand why when we say the prophet is trying to make us better civilians, better citizens of our communities, what that actually means. We won't be looking at the term citizen in this deconnotative stance, because of what we're learning from patriotism, what we're learning from sovereign citizenship type movements, especially when they have sovereign citizens marked down as terroristic organizations, because they're operating from a lens that doesn't actually line up with the expression of what it is to be American, what the Constitution is actually expressing. They sell you a viewpoint that you don't even have to go down if you actually looked at it with an unbiased viewpoint. If you actually really got into the sciences and the studies of these things, we wouldn't be caught up in this mess. Not knowing left from right, not knowing that each and every one, no matter what community you go into, even as the Moorish Science Temple of America, even as Moors, even in any nation, civilization of civilians across this planet, you pledge. There's a pledge to that community. There's a shahada. There's a baptismal. There's a powwow. Whatever, whether it's natives of America, natives of Asia, natives of Africa, there's ceremonial rites that you go through. There's rites of passage, even with your children, that they go through. These are stages of growth. These are natural processes. So when we get into the whole sovereign citizen type of mentality, then you look at words like making us a better citizen, something bad. Like I said, if you don't govern your mind, something else will govern it for you. And so that means the prophet ain't tell us to be out here going against having driver's license, going against all these different things. If this is what these ordinances or statutes that's been created by a group of people that created them at the time, if you want them to change, get off your politically lazy ass, excuse my French, and go and make a change. But you don't do that by tricking people into a way of life that does not have any fruitful standing. You do that by getting up and becoming the representative and making a change through the system. Well, they say you can't change the system. The system ain't nothing but something that we created. Of course, it's not going to change until you learn how to work with the system. I don't see 50,000 people going into their Sega Genesis and changing the system. And it ain't too much changing that you can do. It's still going to operate off the system and codex of a computer. It's a computer. So if it don't have a graphic card, you can't change it to the point it don't have a graphic card. How you going to see the graphics? So we got to be realistic. We got to be practical. There's practicality and spirituality, and there's a spiritual aspect of practicality that the prophet teaches us with these holy instructions that he gives us. And a lot of the messages that are being delivered and expressed to our people, they're not coming through in a quantum form. They're not coming through in a wholesome way, in a wholesome message. So continuing on, the prophet says, a national organization with a Rotarian complexion as it relates to branch temples becomes obvious with the increasing number of inquiries from men and women in different sectors of the country concerning the purpose of the organization. There are branch temples in 15 different states at this time. Since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation, and an affidavit to this effect has been properly filed in the Cook County records of the Cook County Recorder's Office in Illinois. So I got a chance to experience what it means to be treated like royalty as a Moor in Chicago. I see it's different than putting some paperwork on record and saying you this, that, and the third. No, when you're a part of a branch temple and that branch temple operates the way it's supposed to, you get treated like royalty. And that not detained list they're talking about is that list called the Book of Life of those that are members of the temple. That ain't got nothing to do with these paperwork processes. All these people are giving you the remedy for. Get your birth certificate, this, that, and the third. All that paperwork process paperwork process pushing got nothing to do with the real structure. And you are caught up in something that's totally left wing to the actual things that you're supposed to be learning. And you miss those things because you're not coming and gathering in the temple. And I'm gonna put the link for the book of Corinthians in the chat again, because it got to be reiterated. Like I say, every time I'm gonna add a little more sauce to it every time, because I'm gonna give y'all the milk, but we gonna get to that potato stages. But I still gotta lay down the basic things so we properly understood, because they like all them people in the temple, they be tripping and this, that, and the third. Man, everywhere you go, people be tripping, like I say. Everywhere you go, outside the temple, in the temple, people will be tripping. But you gotta know who you tripping with. Is this person tripping because they trying to take your soul on a journey, or to the higher source, or are they tripping because they trying to lead you to destruction and everything of the lower self? So you got to thank the person that brings you into the temple. You need to go back and say, hey, I appreciate you for bringing me to this right knowledge, right wisdom, for the right understanding. Most definitely. Because you got a lot of good speakers out there, but not those that are leading you to teaching and moving as an actual spiritual teacher. I'm not just a good speaker, I'm a spiritual guide. I don't know it all. Wise man, no, we don't know anything, nothing at all. So I go and listen to those good speakers so we can bring back the universal messages of the things that they're touching on and what are really guiding our people to be gathered around them. But for us to really make an imprint on the souls, because it's not just a religious organization, this is a divine and national movement. And at this point, like we say, it's a divine and global movement. If the prophets say we got to uplift humanity, then that means this is a global thing here. This is a kingdom building thing here. I continuing on, the prophet says, inspired by the lofty teachings of the Qur'an, we have it as the revealed word of God the revealed word of God Allah. We shall foster the principles of his teachings among our members. This is our religious privilege as American citizens under the laws of one of the greatest documents of all time, the American Constitution. The Mohammedan religion is the least appreciated and probably the most misunderstood of the world's great religions. This is especially true in our Western world. Try to understand what Mohammedanism stands for and some of the things it has contributed to the world. Muhammad was the founder of the Mohammedan religion. It originated 13 centuries ago on the Arabian Peninsula, where the streams of commerce and culture met and mingled in the Middle Ages, where the markets of exchange were stationed for treasures of India and the products of the Mediterranean coast. There, this religion was established in the unprecedented short period of 20 years, and unlike many other religions, without the aid of any royal patronage and support. Buddhism has its Osaka. Judaism has Judea. Judaism is Joshua. Christianity its Constantine. But no Mohammedanism had its person of royal rank and power to assist in its establishment and spread. So the prophet is saying basically, you got to understand, the prophet Muhammad wasn't considered of royalty to the world. He was royal and especially by that time, because by the time the 600s AD ran into play, the Greeks had already established world domination through the Justinian Codex. They had already came into Macedonia and took over what we left as the ancient Sumerians. So during that time, when the angelic forces or the divine intelligences paid Muhammad a visit, he wasn't considered himself royalty. You got to remember, as we read in the Holy Quran, they thought he was possessed with a jinn. They thought he was possessed by a demon. They thought he was crazy. Continuing on, the prophet say, today this religion is acknowledged by nearly 250 million souls and extends over an area equal to 1/3 of the globe. From Arabia, it spreads eastward over Persia, Turkestan, Afghanistan, westward across Syria, Asia Minor, Turkey, southward to Africa, covering more than half of that continent. It found its way to India and beyond to the islands of Sumatra, Java, and Borneo. To the early representatives of this faith, the world's debt is incalculably great, for it was they who transmitted the treasures of Greek literature from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance. They who originated the graceful forms of the Taj Mahal and the Alhambra are the most famous examples. It was they who contributed to the sciences of algebra and chemistry, astronomy and medicine. They who dotted the Saracen, which is a Moorish empire, the Saracen Empire with universities, and who built at Baghdad and Cairo, the most renowned universities of the world. During those centuries of ecclesiastical despotism, which I touched on earlier, right? There we go. When the Christian church suppressed all intellectual activities, save those that were theological, causing, or accept those that were theological, causing the talent that reproduces to supplant the genius that creates. Mohammedans did all in their power to encourage and stimulate research in every branch of human inquiry. The Moors, or Mohammedans, added to the beauty and grandeur of Spain. For centuries, art, science, literature, and chivalry flourished among them, while the rest of Europe was still sunk in the gloom of the Dark Ages. The Moors were the most ingenious and industrious of the subjects of Spain. Their expulsion from Spain in 1610 was one of the chief causes of decadence of that country, for both agriculture and industry fell into decay after their departure. Mohammedanism makes no distinction between high and low, rich and poor. It is like the sky. It has room for all. So these are some of the things that I've mentioned earlier, and we've read this here before, but we're reading it again for this year. For this year segment and samples of sermons and lectures, but with more iteration on the points that are being made from the prophet. The prophet said there's room for all, which means that Islam, or the way of peace or submission to the divine intelligence, the way of submitting to the divine intelligence is something universal, meaning all cultures participate in it. All cultures of people, going all the way back to even ancient Egypt and what we call Ma'at or Ma'at, the order of justice, the order of law. Continuing on, the prophet said the Quran should be of interest to all readers. It is the Bible of the Mohammedans, ruling over the customs and actions of over 200 millions of people. It is a work of importance, whether considered from a religious, philosophical, or literary viewpoint. In the promotion of plans for the betterment of mankind, there has ever been some kind of opposition, and strange as it may seem, such opposition has come from sources where there were no ideals or the lack of courage to focus attention to ideals. Whether in church, state, or the social community, any attempt to do anything out of the usual way seldom fails to receive criticism. Not because the course cannot be pursued legally or that it is unreasonable, but because it has been considered in terms as new. As new. We touched on this earlier. It's a new thing. The prophet says the Moorish Science Temple of America has received some opposition and criticism. In the main, the opposition has come from certain Christian ministers. They have expressed themselves as being opposed to our propagation of the Mohammedan religion, possibly because the promotion of the Mohammedan faith among our people in the United States is considered by them in terms as something new. Whatever the reasons may be for their opposition, the legal right to oppose citizens, individuals, and organizations alike for their religious beliefs does not exist in the United States. The door of religious freedom made by the American Constitution swings open to all, and people may enter through it and worship as they desire. Without religious freedom, no search for truth would be possible. Without religious freedom, no discovery of truth would be useful. Without religious freedom, religious progress would be checked, and we would no longer march forward toward the nobler life which the future holds for the races of men. Without religious freedom, there would be no inspiration to lift our heads and gaze with fearlessness in the vast beyond, seeking a hope eternal. It is a sad weakness in us, after all, to oppose our fellow man for their religious beliefs. And if there are angels who record the sorrows of man as well as their sins, they certainly know how many and deep are the useless sorrows that spring forth from such opposition. Possibly, love and time will cancel our ancient hatreds in this regard and prove that in mankind, tolerance is better than unwarranted opposition. So the prophet is speaking towards all of the religious controversy that took place because of bringing forth the Mohammedan bloodline. But if we really check back in history and what this country stands on, which the Bible is law, and we really go through the things that have taken place, and we understand that the lineage of the tribe of Judah has passed on back into a Ishmaelic branch of our indigenous peoples globally, and that ties into what you consider the Sephardim Jews and the original people, the original Jews, or the original people that are still left as a remnant today in that bloodline. Then we know that the scepter was passed from the Israelites back over to the Ishmaelites by way of Belial, which the Mohammedans are Ishmaelites. And this is why the revealings and the revelations came through that particular bloodline. This is why the information of the scriptures continued on through that bloodline, because the information of the scriptures end in the book of Revelations. Before that, you had the Tiflim, the Psalms, which were not even meant to go into the Torah, the Testament, the Old Testament, as they call it. It was meant to be a standalone. And then you have the Torah, and then you have those other books of the prophets that actually come outside the Torah, but they ended up in the Old Testament. But those scriptures go on, even the Tiflim goes all the way back to Akhenaten, ancient Egyptian. So your latest scripture is from the 600s AD. This is the last documented visit of higher divine intelligence and positive forces of nature coming through automatic writing, which is what we were known for doing as the ancient scribes of ancient Egypt. And it was a more understood thing at that time because you had more people that knew about the science of tapping in to their spiritual organs in their body. Now we're more disconnected to those structures and uses of utilizing those organs that we have in our bodies, those energy centers that we have in our body, to communicate with the higher frequencies. Just like you use your arm to pick up and grab a piece of fruit. Same thing. So continuing on, the prophets say, in connection with our religious aims and beliefs, we must promote economic security. Economic security. The preaching of economic security among us is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demands. The preaching of economic security. As we read last week in El's Holy Injiyl, we need to be buying silver and gold, especially as a community. And it's not widespread. So in the temples, you ain't just supposed to come get a good holy message the prophet wanted us to get. The prophet say economic security is what we need to promote. This is why I say it's not just being rich and having money in the bank account. That ain't economic security, brothers and sisters. Kin and kinfolk, that ain't economic security. Economic security is having your own currency system that you control, which is what we have established here. And in this day and time where people are looking for those alternative sources, you have that. But gold and silver is not the only form of currency in ancient times. It's about the ledger system. And this is the importance that we're bringing, especially as this particular branch temple, with our participation in technology. Like the prophet said, we brought them lights from the literature Be Industrial. We brought them lights. We were 500 years ahead of time technologically. Same thing now. So we should be ahead of time in our ideals, in our projects, in our resources, in the things that we're working to build, which we're ahead of a lot of people in the space because it's so much economic diversity and we're not coming together as an economic community, as I mentioned earlier. We got everybody trying to do their own thing, which doesn't really help. Continuing on, the prophet says, the preaching of economic security among us is by no means as widespread and intensive as the circumstances demand. No other one thing is more needed among us at this time than greater economic power, better positions for our men and women, more business employment for our boys and girls, and bigger incomes will follow our economic security. We shall be secure in nothing until we have economic power. A beggar people cannot develop the highest in them, nor can they attain to a genuine enjoyment of the spiritualities of life. Our men, women, and children should be taught to believe in the capacity of our group to succeed in business. In spite of the trials and failures of some of them, trials and failures in business are by no means confined to any particular group of people. Some business ventures of all people fail. We have many men and women among our people who are qualified, both by training and experience, who are shining lights in the business world of all the people. It is a sad weakness in us as a people that we have withheld the very encouragement, support, and patronage that would have made some of our worthy business ventures a grand success. And worst of all, have joined in the condemnations of them when they fail. The worst is us joining in the failures of our people's business ventures. We're not coming in to say, well, you need a business loan? Not a personal loan. You need a business loan so we can get your business off the ground. You got a great business idea and a great business venture for the community. It's not no such thing as too big to fail. It's no man or woman left behind economically, period. So the prophet says, worthy business ventures a grand success made of, I'm sorry, it is a sad weakness in us as a people that we have withheld the very encouragement, support, and patronage that would have made some of our worthy business ventures a grand success, and worst of all, have joined in the condemnation of them when they fail. Except in cases of actual dishonesty, discourtesy, lack of service, and actual unreliability, and our business enterprises in every field of endeavor should have lulled of confidence, cooperation, and patronage whenever and wherever they can be given. Read carefully the doctrines of the Moorish Temple of America. It contains our hopes, aims, rules, and articles of religion. Every member should have a copy. In conclusion, I urge you to remember there is work enough for all to do in helping to build a better world. The problems of life are largely social and economic. In a profound sense, they are moral and spiritual. Have lofty conceptions of your duties to your country and fellow man in general, and especially those with whom you deal. This includes such honesty and righteousness as will cause you to put yourself in the other fellow's place. Look for the best in others and give them the best that is in you. Have a deeper appreciation for womanhood. Have a deeper appreciation for womanhood. We went over this before last year. Our clan mothers, our matriarchal structure is being attacked by what they call a feminist movement. Because we just read it even here, as I touched on these past weeks about the things that are hurting us as a family. We read it here. Men and women, even the children, should have businesses and economic things and duties and social duties to the community. It ain't just one where the man is working. We had a patrimony, not a patriarchy or just a matriarchy. We had a chaperone society where it take a village to raise a child. It took a village to build. The prophet says, brighten the hopes of our youth in order that their courage be increased to dare and to do wondrous things. Adhere at all times to the principles of love, true peace, freedom, and justice. The prophet says, I'm your affectionate leader. I shall continue to labor day and night, both in public and private, for your good, thereby contributing to the welfare of our country and its people as a whole. Prophet Double Draw Ali. So the things that we deal with and come across as a people, and the things that we hear, and I'm sure y'all hear them all the time, they come off butt ass backwards, excuse my French. But it 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 really pushes us back 10 steps. The conversations, as we read in El's Holy Qur'aan last week, those disingenuous or vain discussions that people are having, those are discussions for people of the left hand path. Those are discussions for people that are not tapped into the divine intelligence. Those are the people that are putting themselves through hell, Jahannam, the mental slavery, creating your hell. Like Edgar Casey, hell is not a place you go to, it's a place you grow to. So in these neighborhoods, in these places, are we raising our children up in hell or heaven? I done been in some neighborhoods, and just being in the neighborhood alone, the energy feel graceful. The energy feel like, oh wow, they really take care of this community. It's like, I'm sure some negative stuff going on, but it don't. Pretty sure it don't outweigh the positive that's going on, because the upkeep of the community, the things that are available in the community for the people to do. The children are out playing with each other. Different people from the neighborhood, their children are playing with each other. But there's actual things for them to participate in. Now, some of our neighborhoods try to do such, but we still send our children out into the world. And in that world, they get introduced to all these different things. Versus being grounded in a community and being around a community of people that is there on the same actual mental wavelength, that is there to actually establish growth as a community. So that's not just in them owning some big mansion or beautiful apartment. That's growth and development and protection and security and support with the children that's in the neighborhood, with the people, their neighbors. They're friendly to their neighbors. They're respectable to their neighbors. You're not peeping in the shadow streams of the mind about your neighbors like you would in these poverty-stricken neighborhoods, communities, and apartments that they have, which have us mentally apart mentally, apartment. So let's jump into our holy instructions tonight, because that's going to reiterate the points that we made about this whole paperwork thing that our people are really truly caught up in. Because the redemption of the prophet, the redemption of the people, as you can even read in the book of Matthew, has nothing to do with paperwork, not even commerce. It says you should be redeemed without money. So I'm gonna put those two scriptures, the book of Corinthians, in the chat, along with the book of Matthew's verse that say you should be redeemed without money. So you can see it for yourself. So when they tell you, the driver's license, this, that, and the third, this is how these people control you. No, they control you by your political structure. They control you by your political status and your political philosophy and how you think. So once you adapt the philosophy of rebelliousness, you're adapting anarchy. You're adapting what we call in ancient Egypt, ipit, chaos, disorder, destruction, injustice. Now you out there fighting the the and you're caught up in a war that has nothing to do with you. And you're fighting amongst the injustices for our people. And you're caught up in a war that has nothing to do with you. The master teacher then broke it down. Too many people that are understanding of the higher frequencies have came to teach. This is why the prophets say there's no greater emphasis than economic security. So when we tap into people like Earl Nightingale, the master's teachers, the strangest secrets, Abraham Hicks, these other people, when they tell us, you didn't come here to be a slave. You didn't come here to fight and battle other people's demons, to battle the demons of the world. The spirit realm is going to do what the spirit realm does. Yes, you are powerful. Yes, there's greatness within you. All those things. But at the same time, there's things beyond your control. And we as a people have not willingly humbled ourselves and stepped into that. This is what this whole Luciferian concept is about. Light can be good. The true light is true light from the standpoint of not just saying light that actually caused blindness, but the true light, which is that triple darkness that incubates, that womb that incubates. That is what's considered the true light, which is actually a purple or black light. So it's darkness and darkment, not enlightenment. Because those sacred halls, or those halls of learning, not sacred halls, but those halls of learning, have been filled with illumination, light. And we know what all the light brings. So our ancient mysteries are based on the true light, the triple darkness, participating in the womb of nature, the bosom of nature, the bosom of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, El Lahut, the bosom, the divine reality of things. It doesn't matter what new quarks they find, biaps they find, any of those things of quantum physics that they tap into. Do we understand the womb of nature that we come from? Do we understand the divine principle of life that everything originates from? And the fact that you cannot control things that are bigger intellectually than yourself. We are a part of the all. We're not the all. Truth is Art. What is Art? Art is Allah. You're not the God. You don't possess God. God come and possess you. So when you say my God or my truth, God don't belong to you. So when did people start possessing God? Or the divine forces? The divine forces, you are part of the all. You are part of the divine forces. The divine forces of nature, they are within you because you are a part of it. The all is all. All is. And this is why we was given that affirmation, that affirmative, to lock that in, because you cannot take away from the all, you cannot add to the all. This is what we accept as facts when we open up the parliament, the temples. So when it comes down to the paperwork thing, the status correction, all these things have to do with redeeming yourself without money. So I'm gonna, like I say, put that in the chat, and then we're gonna jump into these holy instructions. Anybody got any questions? Don't like I say, don't be afraid, don't be ashamed. Y'all can chime in, whatever, cut me off whenever you need to. This is supposed to be interactive as we can get it. I do appreciate the respect, but at the same time, we here to make merry and be peace and one with the gods. And the gods had a question and answer structure. Psalms 82. How long will you judge unjustly? So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be ashamed to ask questions. Don't feel to where you got to be so humble you can't come off the mic or raise your hand or whatever it may be, especially those that come and listen to the replay, especially those that have questions. Leave your questions in the chat. They'll get answered. Come back, listen to the replay. I'll address the question. But we got to have civic engagement. And that's what I'm getting at ultimately. So let me put this verse in the put this verse in the chat. So this is coming from Isaiah 52:3. And if I remember correctly, it was also, it should also be in the book of Matthew. But I'm about to put that in the chat real quick so y'all can go over there in your meantime, as well as put the verse for us being a temple. So you'll understand that this is ancient divine law that we're talking about here. The Bible is law in this country. The year of the Bible, public law. Make sure I put that in the chat too as well, so y'all have it. But I know this is in book of Matthew too, if I remember correct. Let me see. I guess it is Isaiah 52:3. Okay, yeah, because I'm gonna go check that. I'm gonna double check that one. Let me see. All right, let me put that in there. All right, that has something to do with something new. All right, let me go back to the book of Corinthians and put that in the chat for you. All right, so that's 1 Corinthians 3:16 for those that want the actual Bible verse. But like I said, I'm putting the link in the chat for y'all to check it out. So that's Isaiah 52, which says you shall be redeemed without equity, without money. And then that's 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16, that says we are the temple. So you have it to make reference to. It says, don't you know that you yourself are God's temple and that God's spirits dwell in your midst? So the year of the Bible is in the United States, 1983, was designated as the National Year of the Bible by President Ronald Reagan by Proclamation 5018 on February 3rd, 1983. President Reagan was authorized and requested to do so, designated by 1983 by Public Law 97-280. So you also find that as Public Law 97-280 as well. So I'm putting that in the chat so you guys will understand what we're making reference to. And so the Bible and all of the scriptures, especially Sharia law, Toranic law, or Judaic law, that is custom in this country. And you have your kingdom and your heirship through the Bible, your royalty. But how do you proclaim your royalty and establish that? Because you're connecting yourself to the sovereign theocratic government that has been lawfully and publicly acknowledged as the Moorish Science Temple of America here in this country. This is why the prophets say, go to the Europeans and have them affirm it for you in an intelligible tone. They're going to tell you, which is which is HR 0689. HR 0689. I'm going to put that in the chat for you. So you'll see. And this is not just the only state to give that recognition. And I'm gonna also put the link for you being royalty. It also say the kings and queens will serve you and care for all your needs. They will bow to the earth before you and lick the dust of your feet. I'm gonna put that in there for y'all, because you need to know who you are. That's also in the book of Isaiah. But you want to go ahead and read chapter 48 so you'll understand chapter 49 and 48, so you'll understand that verse in context, so you can get it. But like I said, you got to know that you're royalty. You have to know these things. So I'm gonna put that in there, what Jesus said. Revelations 1:16. 1:6. So I'm gonna pull out L's and Jill before we jump into these instructions, because I don't want to have us over here too late. But you need to understand this is the first chapter in the book of Revelations. So we're gonna read what the master teacher translated and go into that. 1:6, Revelations verse 1:6 says, and he has made us to be a kingdom and priests to serve his God and Father. To him be glory and power forever and ever. In another translation, it says, and he had made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. And to him be glory and dominion forever and ever. Amen. And if you go back to the Isaiah verse I just put in there, it said the kings and queens of the earth, the gods that shall inherit the earth, they're going to be bowed down and licking y'all feet. So when the prophet came and put together the sovereign theocratic structure for the Moorish Science Temple of America, and now it's publicly and lawfully acknowledged, you have HR 0689 in the link in the chat. And like I say, that's not the only resolution and proclamation that's been given out for the Moorish Science Temple of America. Think about what I'm saying when y'all go saying, well, I was born a Moor, such and such and such. Being a Moor is not just about being born, it's about being reborn, about your title of nobility. Same way you go through a baptismal, same way you go through your rites of passage, and any Native American tribe, any Native African tribe, any Native Asian tribe, any nation, any 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 Native Islander tribes is all the same. It is no different. So please, when you come across these things with all this paperwork pushing and all these things, if they don't align up with us having a royal court and having a actual structure, then you know some funny business is going on. Y'all have y'all charter. You can go to the website holytemples.org, go to Holy Charters. There go the charter for the branch temple number 24 within the unity movement of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Like I said, I've been in Chicago and treated and escorted like royalty. I know what it feels like. But taking us through so well all of us can have that experience. I can't continue to enjoy the luxuries until all of our people. So it's not just having millions in a bank account. That don't mean nothing. I'd rather be broke. I live like I broke anyway. I'm over here getting kicks in the head and reminders like, you got access to a lot of money and you worried about getting money. Yeah. Yeah, I know. And I go through analysis paralysis. But I'm trying to figure out how to make this work, not just for myself, to where all of us can enjoy the luxuries and the spiritualities, like the prophet said, of life. The higher spiritualities, not the lower, not the demonic, the angelic, the higher angelic, not the fallen angels. So let's go into these holy instructions so we can close out tonight. Our civic education is what we went over, the study, which is the study of theoretical, political, and practical aspects of citizenship. We touched on that. We touched on the rights and its duties. We touched on the study of civil laws, civil codes. We went into a bit of that. And the study of government. We touched on political science and theory, and the attention to the roles of citizens as opposed to the external factors of operation of government, because they're external to the internal part, which is the citizen, as we touched on tonight. So you have to understand what's taking place around you, the responsibility and the calling that you have been called, and the social duties, all these other things that the prophet, the divine customs. Like I said, I went over the word indoctrination, I went over the word institution and what they mean. You got to get past those subconscious things, or voices, egos, whatever, that are keeping you from being the greatness that is within you, stepping into the nobility that is within you, that you are, that is you. Treating your body as a temple. All right, so we went over civic virtues, which is the cultivation of our customs, our habits, which are important to the success of our communities. And this is what links to the concepts of civic virtues or our citizenship, which is about the dedication, the loyalty, the trust for the common welfare of our community, even at the cost of some of our individual interests. We got to get beyond these biases, these opinions, and step into truths, step into aphorisms, step into affirmations and facts. Facts that are true, not just facts that are facts just because, which are de jure versus de facto. A lot of people give you a lot of de facto information and you don't even realize it. They coming from a de jure standpoint, but they're giving you a lot of de facto information. So I try to make it simple and plain as best as I can, and coming from the standpoint of where this actual information is coming from, so you'll know to stand on it. This is why my name is Lawiy, because it means to enjoin the law, enjoining the law, binding to the law. Like I said earlier, the word bondage or even binding is not a bad thing. You want to be divine, you want to be bonded to the divine, as my brother Phase One says. You want to be divined to the higher intelligence. You want to be bonded to the Most High. Some people are not ready to have the Most High in their lives. Some people are not ready to have the divine intelligences take over them and operate through them. They can't control that power. The divine is not going to even give you too much more than what you can handle in the first place. So people got to be careful when they say, well, I want God in my life and this, that, and the third. Because once God take a hold, like I said, you don't possess God. God possesses your ass. Excuse my French. Those reincarnated spirits that represent you, they possess you. Not you possess them. You may possess it within you, but you don't possess them. All right, so as we know, Friday is the holy day, or you who know, when the call is proclaimed to supplication on Friday. I'm sorry, I didn't even go over the civic engagement. So civic engagement is, like I was talking about earlier, we're not coming together to concert about the things that we need to actually talk about. The taking that collective action that we need to do and address these issues that are of public concern to us as a people. So we go unrepresented. We go into these political slaveries that we're actually in, these civic slaveries. We become civilly dead. And yes, you find the word civiliter mortuus in the dictionary, which has the word more in it. So you can be a uncivilized Moor. This is why when you become a civilized Moor, that means you become a part of the temple of civilized people. That is the point in joining the temple and understanding those key principal points. And keep it simple. A lot of these people telling you they got empires, this, that, and the third. Cool. But a lot of what they operate on is the de facto and secular. Even some of our political prisoners that have came through the movement and leaned back on secular things, that's what got them in their situations. I know religion don't solve all your issues, but when it comes to standing on a divine law and those things, that law does set you free. The truth does set you free. So when you stand on that and you find yourself getting caught and slipped up into secular law, and a lot of our people don't even know that, don't even understand that secular law is okay for certain things, but at the same time, it's the divine law that's going to set your butt free. It's the divine law of us coming together, 2 or 3 or more gathered in the name. If we're talking about helping the master teacher, we're talking about freeing our political prisoners. I don't care if it's from your Larry Hoovers on down to whoever it is. If we come together and we do our own tribunals, we have a jury of our own peers in our own royal courts, which are the temples that have been lawfully acknowledged. And it doesn't matter if you are indigenous, Native American tribe, whatever. The prophets say, come in and create your own laws and customs, but have a maku, have a chief of the tribe, have an imam, one who is out front, a mama, one who is out front. So this is why we touch on the things of civic engagement, and I make sure I go over those key points. And remember, the Moorish Science Temple of America started out as a civic organization, and everything mostly was religion, because the prophet was preaching economic security. The prophet was preaching civic engagement. The prophet was preaching our customs and our habits. He was being a fiery minister of the divine spirit. So I'm bringing that essence back and attempting to do so, not to be Pastor Porkchop and screaming from the rooftops. I'm not loud as all your other preachers. I don't, especially not right now. But I will be turning up the fire of the message. I'm still gonna be that little voice crying in the wilderness, because when y'all listen to this, especially those on YouTube, they're hearing this with meditation in the background. So this is for you to be tranquil, man, and mindful. Like I say, the Injiyl said the prophet or the deity Buddha had something good going. He just didn't give homage back to the Most High, to Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, the source, El, Elohi, Aliyun El. However you want to make reference to the divine source, Anu and Anutum, and the divine mother, the heavenly father. All right, y'all. So let's jump into these holy instructions, which as we know in the prophet states, Friday is the holy day, O you who know, which I'm reading from Surah 63, ayat 9 through 10. And as it states, Friday is the holy day, O you who know, when the call is proclaimed to supplication on Friday, the day of assembly, hasten earnestly to the remembrance of the heavenly father and divine mother, and leave off business and traffic. That is best for you if you but knew. And when prayer is finished, then may ye disperse through the land and seek the bounty of God, and celebrate the praises of God of 10, and without stint, that ye may prosper. All temple services and meetings are to be open and closed promptly according to the Circle 7 in love, true peace, freedom, and justice. Friday is our holy day of rest because on a Friday the first man was formed in flesh, and on a Friday the first man departed out of flesh and ascended unto his father God Allah. For that cause, Friday is our holy day for all Muslims and peacemakers all over the world. This is according to Act 2 of the Divine Constitution and bylaws by the Prophet Noble Ali, which states all temples and subordinate temples are to conduct holy day service every Friday, starting promptly at their respective time and ending promptly at their respective time. All civilians, patrons, denizens, prospects, and ministers are expected to attend the temple for Friday Holy Day temple service. On Fridays, the Moorish Americans, Moorish Asians, and Moorish African Muslims and peacemakers all come together to supplicate and to illustrate that which Allah has blessed them with. The temple services are open according to divine love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. At no time will templars, adepts, ministers, patrons, or outside congregational guests be allowed to disrupt the Holy Day service, nor will civilians be admitted under the influence of alcohol or any severe intoxicant. All templates, adepts, and civilians attending the holy day service must have their heads covered with either a turban, fez, or kufi, or a spiritual covering. Baseball caps should not be worn in the temple or during temple service. The Sunday school temple service is mandatory, and all Moorish nationals, templars, and temple denizens must promptly attend the temple service and send their children to the Sunday school gathering. And the teacher must conform himself and herself to the temple 101 questionnaire, and let every civilian man, woman, and child exercise his or her 5 senses who is able to do so, because out from your Sunday school comes the guiders of the nation, and now the entire global village. According to Act 5 of the additional bylaws by the Prophet Noble Ali, every subordinate temple should have 2 Sunday school gatherings held. The first meeting should be held 1 to 2 hours before the adult service. So you want to be teaching your children an hour or 2 before we come together here as adults to have our school on Sundays. Come back Sunday. I have the school link. Y'all enroll. You got questions from the school. This is the time for y'all to be in the school, building your portfolio and asking questions. The Sunday school gathering is designed to assist the temple in learning the Temple 101 questionnaire and developing an understanding of just what these holy keys mean and how they ought to be applied to our everyday lives. The Divine Constitution and bylaws, along with the Moorish prayer, the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nation, El's Holy Injiyl, El's Holy Qur'aan, and the civic lessons of the Holy Temple of Moorish Science are also subjects of major concern for the apprentice who is trying to complete his or her mandatory requirements for pronouncing their temple civilianship and global nationality. All lessons for the adult Sunday school gathering must be prepared by a Grand Sheik, a divine minister, or an assistant Grand Sheik. Lessons called by us novites or additions may be submitted to the apprentice for completion and returned to the temple. Once the lessons are completed and graded, they must be placed in the active members' temple district file. The Sunday school temple service is a wonderful opportunity to study the liturgy teachings of the prophet. No civilian is to become disruptive during the Sunday meeting. All templars must bring paper and pen to the temple service and meeting along with the basic temple literature and assignments. No templars or patrons to eat food or other snacks during the temple service or meeting, but water is permitted. All templars must attend their Sunday temple service and meetings as diligently as they attend their holy day temple service and meetings. Both were called out for by the Prophet Noble Ali, and is required as a matter of temple law. According to the Divine Constitution, Act 7 in part, all templars must promptly attend their temple services and meeting and become a part and parcel of all uplifting acts of the Moorish Science Temple of America, and now also Moorish Science Temple of Africa and Moorish Science Temple of Asia, and enjoining world islands on behalf of all indigenous peoples. For membership, any heads of temples of all temple jurisdictions are not to charge for naturalization or to overcharge for cards, buttons, or anything issued by and through the Prophet. Those who contribute to any of the proceedings are not Moors, civilians, or patrons, but robbers. Temple nationality and membership in the Holy Temple's vast estate or public beneficiary trust, sisters and brothers, kin and kinfolk, is free, not only here, but all over the world, which here in America. All kin and kinfolk desiring to become a civilian of a subordinate temple must read the messages from the temple secretary and acquire the application for naturalization, which can also be found on our holytemples.org website, which we had pinned up at the top of the room just earlier. The secretary of the temple's jurisdiction will help all newcomers by explaining the naturalization application, the naturalization affidavit, and application for membership in the temple's vast estate, or what we call a public beneficiary trust, to the new prospective civilian of the temple's vast estate, or what we call, like I said, a public beneficiary trust, and arranging for him or her to be consulted by the royal council of said temple or subordinate temple. The royal chairman or woman will set the date for the new temple prospect to be interviewed by the royal council. The new temple court civilian, upon completion of the royal council's consultation at the newcomers gathering or Sunday school gathering on Sunday, the new templars will proclaim their temple nationality at the next upcoming holy day temple gathering. After the new civilian prospect proclaims his or her nationality, they will be given the mandatory requirements necessary to earn their free national name and royal title of nobility as a true American royal. These requirements are as follows, and in accordance with chapter 47 of the Moorish Circle 7 Holy Qur'an, called Egypt the capital dominion of the Empire of Africa. The Moorish Prayer, chapter 25 of the Moorish Quran, called the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation, including the one-on-one Quran questions for Moorish Americans, Asians, and Africans, the Divine Constitution and bylaws, the additional laws and the precepts, statutes, and ordinances from El's Holy Torah, El's Holy Injiyl, El's Holy Qur'an, and our family guide, as well as the Holy Tablets, through our Civics 101 course, which we call the Global Interdependent School District, and Sacred Halls of Learning, which we also call New University for everyone of the global village. Once a new civilian or template has learned these additions or lessons verbatim, or to the best of their ability, he or she will be interviewed by the temple's royal council as the chaplaincy to determine if the new civilian is qualified to represent himself or herself as a faithful Moorish American, Moorish African, and Moorish Asian, Muslim, or any indigenous peacemaker, and communicated to the ignorant for their instructions, and communicated to the wise for dying on improvement. Once the new civilian or template has cleared the mandatory requirements with the royal council, he or she will be naturalized by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister of said subordinate temple. So everything I just read, if you got to go back, listen to the replays when you get a chance. That's how simple it is in proclaiming your nationality and changing your political status. Politically, we are a theocratic body politic. You read the link that I put in the chat. You see HR 0689, or you can Google it for yourself when you get a chance. We are acknowledged as a sovereign theocratic governmental body structure and a government period. So that means we have the public and lawful acknowledgement that we are our own governing body of people, going all the way back to the scriptures, going all the way back to Adam, which is an indigenous melanated being, and the caliphaship and the scepter and the sisla, which is bloodline and successorship that has been passed down all the way from Adam on down to these modern day and time, where all of our grand sheiks, imams, gurus, pastors, pharaohs, etc., kings, queens, high priests, whatever spiritual system, you name it. And you want to also go to the book of Revelations as we read here on Sundays. Go listen to those newcomer gatherings that we have here on Clubhouse. They're not on YouTube, but they're here privately on Clubhouse, to where you can come in, listen to them, and understand where we're coming from, especially when I'm making reference to, which is go and listen to those messages or the letters that are sent to the 7 congregations of the world of Asia. We are those Asiatics. This is the covenant of the Asiatics, which is that letter coming from El's Holy Injiyl, the book of Revelations, the Qur'an, the revealing, the revelations. So, or the readings, however you want to look at it. So let's go into our baptism, which is also part of the explaining of the holy instructions, which is the proclamation of nationality, which is the procedure and pronunciation of one's nationality, which will be held on Holy Day for all civilians, denizens, templars, peacemakers, or Muslims all over the world. During the ceremony, the new civilian or templars will be ordained in El, Bay, or Day, and given his or her royal peerage title of kin, honorable, lady, noble, nin, nanya, prince, or princess by a grand sheik and or divine minister, and also receive his or her nationality card and button from the divine minister of the Grand Major Temple. Upon conclusion of the nationality proclamation, the grand sheik and divine minister will have the civilian, templars, and temple prospect stand while he or she reads the authority of the Moorish Science Temple of America. It is by virtue of the Religious Corporation Act document that can be found in Heard's revised statutes that gives the Moorish Science Temple of America, Asia, and Africa the authority to restore the nationality and birthrights of the lost Asiatics of America, Asia, Africa, and all world islands, and give them the title to their vast estate and their heritage. The Grand Sheik on a divine minister is to read from the card and have the new national state, Allah is God, and Noble Drew Ali the Prophet. And I am Moorish American, African, or Asian, and or world islander. This is our Moorish clarification of faith or Shahada and our national pledge of allegiance. The new civilian or template's free national name should then be added to the temple's book of life as they enroll in the Civics 101 course, which is the link that we have pinned to the top of the room. And we have a complimentary World Civics Club that you join when you enroll in the course. When you enroll in the course, you're putting your name in the book of life. You stick around, you do the work, you're building a portfolio for yourself as a Royal American, as an American national. The nationality ceremony should be conducted by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister, or any other Divine Minister so designated by the Grand Sheik and Divine Minister in his or her time of absence, and most notably by the Assistant Grand Sheik and Divine Minister. The nationality card and naturalization application must be signed bearing the name and title of the Grand Sheik or Divine Minister who issued the application and card, and the date of its issuance. The Religious Corporation Act has deemed the Global Interdependent School District and the Incorporated and Chartered Moorish Science Temple of America, Africa, and Asia as a religious trust and theocratic government established in 1928 on August 20th. This religious trust is the true global trusteeship system for the Holy Family of Nations, forming the global nucracy. We are a global nucracy, a global African chieftain system. You complete your affidavit and naturalization application and you upload it to the temple, which is the school. You upload it to the school, put it in your locker, so that way when we come to check if the application is done and it's on record by putting it into your resources, which is basically our school library. Just like any other school that have a jurisdiction, this is your jurisdiction and your school district globally that has been established. We are a global citizenship school, has been acknowledged by UNESCO, the United Nations, and we doing much greater things, but we have to come together as a community to get these next levels of works done. So with that, I'm gonna go into our literature from the prophet because we are right on time for our closing. I was a little late, so those 15 minutes that I took from us earlier today is coming back to kick us in the butt. But I'm gonna go into the mandatory literatures from the prophet as well to close us out. But first, I want to read the messages to the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America from the prophet, so y'all understand what the prophet had intended for you all that are already active members of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And the prophet gave these instructions. Islam, the prophet said, be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and that is why many hearts have been turned to stone, and many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear, lest they will be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. True peace, your divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali. So the prophet say steadfast. You got people that are really trying to create dissension in the movement, divide the movement. And like I say, we shouldn't be fighting over a word, especially the word black, and any other things that we could come together, especially if we look at it not just from European psychology, but we look at it from ancient Moorish, ancient indigenous psychology, ancient black psychology, if you want to say that. So we shouldn't be arguing with our people every 5 minutes because they use the word black in reference to us. If you want to know what I'm saying and why I say what I say, go read the piece of literature from the prophet that says, what shall we call him? And then come argue with me about if the prophet said that this is coming from European psychology or not. And if you verify that in black people's psychology or Moorish people's ancient psychology, especially when we taking claim to things like the Taj Mahal, the pyramids, and Egyptian concepts, which the word Kemet even also means black. So we got to get it right. All right. So for those that don't have a temple home, the olive branch is being extended to you. You have a home here. We're extending that olive branch to you. We are a global branch temple. So there's a lot of Moors out there that are rogue, a lot of people who want to be Moorish subjects, Moorish members, Moorish denizens, Moorish templars, or just temple members, period. You have the olive branch being extended. We are a omniversal church. We are a omniversal gathering. We are a omniversal temple. So, as the prophet said, we honor all true and divine prophets. So this is a call to those 7 congregations of Asia, which is what the planet was also called at one point in time, in regards to the Orientals, which just represents Orient people, which really means original people. But those definitions changed over time. So I'm going to read this from the prophet where he speaks to the nations, all nations. The prophet says, if you have race pride and love your race, join the Moorish Science Temple of America and become part of this divine movement. Then you will have power to redeem your race because you will know who you are and your forefathers were. Because where there is unity, there is strength. Together we stand, divided we fall. Come, good people, because I, the prophet, sent to redeem this nation from mental slavery, which you have now, need every one of you who think that your condition can be better. This is an open field to strong men and women to uplift the nation and take your place in the affairs of men. If the Europeans and other nations are helping me, why not you? It is your problem. The Negro problem is being solved only as it can, and that is by the Moorish national divine movement. If you have a nation, you must have a free national name in order to be recognized by this nation as an American citizen. This is what was meant when it said, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things will be added unto you by the prophet Noble Drawley. So if you need a temple home, you have one here. Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. And I'm sure I made that clear through the nice message. I made it clear as much as I can last week. This political status change has nothing, what they call it status correction. Your status correction has to do with your spirit and how you're living. If you're living civilly or uncivilized. And it's a lot of things that we do that are uncivilized, that are not healthy, that are not helping us as a people. So let's jump into the mandatory messages tonight. The prophet says, I hereby inform, I'm sorry, hold on. Before I do that, let me change the link at the top of the room, y'all. Give me a second. And then we're going to jump into that mandatory mandatory message from the prophet. But I'll make sure that I got the link at the top of the room for those that want to join and become active members. Being a guest member is okay too as well. All you got to do is click that block of words at the top that says World Temple and join us, become a guest member of the temple. We also have a temple network. We also have the temple Facebook group as well. And I think we got a group on LinkedIn, but it's not that many people as it is on on the Facebook group and in the temple network. There go the station right there. I don't know why I didn't click on earlier when I was playing. Tried to play it. But all right, so I changed the link at the top of the room. Let's go ahead, jump into this mandatory message from the prophet, and let's go into tonight's close. So the prophet says, I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical speeches while at work and their homes are on the street. We're for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your card at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Fail to obey these orders will be a severe consequence. We're for love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. And when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deed. All true Moors will and must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where our prophet founded. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out the divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. True peace, Noble Drew Ali. All right, y'all. So we're going to read the last mandatory message and we're going to close out with a prayer. I'm going to get some final contributions from y'all after I do the prayer, after I do the prayer, and then we can close on out tonight. I hope y'all enjoyed y'all holy day. Y'all could be anywhere in the world, but y'all are here with me, Grand Sheik Dr. Lawiy. I really appreciate y'all for being here. I want to give all honors to y'all tonight. But before we give the rest of our honors, I want to go ahead and go into this message that's supposed to be proclaimed in every temple service to meet the Prophet. Islam. The Prophet said, I'm glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There's a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me, so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I'm calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance, and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without me, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works, which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Right, y'all. So we're going to jump into the divine prayer here, the Moorish prayer here for us. And we're going to close on out for the night. You have the link pinned up to the top of the room. It's less than a coffee to join as an active Moor. Start paying your temple dues. But first, you want to make sure you get that Civics 101 link, enroll in the school, start doing the work. Every assignment is a blog. So it's pretty much you can write up your own blog. You can do a video, however you want to do it. But like I said, you're leaving your body of work. This is your portfolio of work, so you can prove and say that I showed thyself studying and approved. This has nothing much to do with me, nothing much to do with saying you a part of Dr. Lawiy's temple or whoever temple. This has to do with you standing on your own merit, showing that you showed thyself studied and approved. If you have questions on how we can make this thing better, come with those questions on Sunday. Come with those questions. You should have questions here on Holy Day as well, but more so pertaining to our civic engagement, our current events, and the things that we need to take care of as a Moorish body of people and as a people, period. So with that, let's go into the prayer, y'all. I'm gonna close us out. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all holy day, y'all Friday. I have a good evening. And don't do nothing I wouldn't do. All right, y'all. Y'all know how it go. 2 fingers up, 5 fingers up, facing the east, feet at a 45-degree angle. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day, through his holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Amen. All right, y'all. Anybody got any last contributions before I close it down? But tonight, go ahead and make your peace, get your peace in. If not, I'll just close us out for the night. I want to give honors to the divine creator, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, the divine source, whether you want to call it Anu, Anutum, El Elohi, Aliyun, Aliyun El, whatever floats your boat. I want to give honors to the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I want to give honors to the forerunner of the prophet, Honorable Marcus Garvey. I want to give honors to all of those leaders that have come and helped us across the world. I want to give honors to the original staff of the prophet, like brothers like C.M. Bay, Kirkman Bay, and all those that was a part of the original staff of the prophet. I want to give honors to all of the Moorish leaders that came after the prophet, before the prophet, brothers like Deuce Ali, brothers like C.M. Bay, Hakeem Bay, those that are not with us that have created wonderful teachings and systems and things that we should be looking into as a people. We shouldn't be operating in a splinter. We should be operating as splinter groups. We should be operating as a whole, some divine and national or global movement at this point. I want to give honors to everyone that's here in participation with me tonight. Like I say, y'all could be anywhere in the world, but y'all are here with me. I want to give honors to everything Moorish. And with that, y'all, we know who's the greatest. Allah is the greatest. Let's take it on home. Wadu, do peace. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all night. If anybody don't got no contributions, I'm gonna try to give y'all some time to unmic, but if not, I'm gonna go and boom the room.
Happy holiday. Thank you.
Happy holiday.
Peace
True
and
peace.
love. Peace and love.
True peace, Noble Majestic. True peace, Noble Dante. Much love, brother Brian. I don't know you want to chime in too, but y'all already know. And that's crazy. That's 9:14. That's the 15. Like I say, the 15 minutes that got taken away. So we gonna begin promptly at its respective time. We gonna end promptly at its respective time. With that, man, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening. Love on the children. Create a legacy for these children. Create a legacy for your family. Understand we cannot do this alone, and it takes a village to raise a child.
Why do?
Why do, brother? One love. Ashe. Hua.
Why should